you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global stories that matter. In the last 3 days, WION has been traveling across Syria. You are in Latakia city right now. Tell us, what is the situation on ground at Gravitas? We don't just tell you stories from selected countries from around the world.
2 years since the Myanmar military coup, the people of Myanmar continue to live in a nightmare.
Because it does not suit their propaganda, or because they are too scared to speak truth to power.
The stress of our world can take a toll on our physical and emotional health. Here, in New York's Catskill Mountains, lies a luxurious place of healing called WION Wellness Center. The WION Wellness Center provides 500,000 square feet of natural methods to manage diabetes, hypertension, chronic pain, obesity, depression, anxiety, and other conditions. We use the traditions of centuries-old natural science from India, yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy in personalized programs that help you take charge of your own health. A minimum 5-day stay is recommended for best results. Book now.
Hello, welcome to a special edition of the India Story coming to you from London. And today we're going to be talking about India-Britain relationships and also some of the issues around the diaspora, including allegations of bullying that are happening and the targeting of members of the diaspora by Khalistani gangs. We have a very special lineup for you, some very, very big guests, starting with the Indian High Commissioner to Britain, Vikram Doraiswami. He's going to be talking to us, as is Lord Karan Bilimoria, who will be describing the role that the Indian diaspora is playing in the economic development both of Britain and in ties between Britain and India. So Lord Karan Bilimoria is going to be joining us. We also have with us Manoj Ladva, who's been driving a lot of the cooperation between India and Britain in recent times and getting a lot of attention around investments in both directions. Turning to issues around the diaspora, we have with us Charlotte Littlewood, who's going to be joining us, who's just written a rather path-breaking report which has got a lot of attention about the bullying being faced by Hindu children in schools here in Britain. She joins us to discuss her report. And talking about bullying, Karan Kataria is going to be joining us, an LSE student who was trying to stand for president, and he says he was discriminated against. And finally, we have a very special and a very moving interview for you from Harman Singh and his wife, Khushi Kaur. They are people who've been speaking out against Khalistani gangs here in England, and they've been targeted. They say they're receiving death threats and rape threats. A special interview with them on this show. All of that coming up for you on the India Story this week, but we start by taking you through some of the major headlines this week.
Who will win Karnataka state election? Polling for 224 assembly seats concluded on May 10th. Exit polls give Congress a clear edge in the state, but differ on clear win. Counting of votes will be on May 13th. Verdict on pleas seeking legal validation for same-sex union reserved by India's Supreme Court. Hearing on the matter concluded this week after 10 days of intense arguments. Five people have been arrested after 3 low-intensity blasts near Golden Temple rocked Amritsar this week. Punjab police say they are probing motives and foreign links. Amid ongoing wrestlers' protests in Delhi, special investigation team has been formed to probe sexual harassment allegations against Wrestling Federation of India chief Brish Bhushan Singh. Delhi court to now hear matter on May 27th.
And let's start our journey through India-Britain relations by taking you to the Indian High Commission here in Britain. The site, you will remember, of those attacks by Khalistani gangs where they tried to take down the Indian flag, they tried to desecrate the Indian flag, and there was an immediate response from the High Commission by putting up an even bigger flag. So let's take you across to the High Commission and a special interview with the Indian High Commissioner to Britain, Vikram Doraiswami. Well, if you're discussing ties between India and Great Britain, who better to talk to than the Indian High Commissioner to the UK, His Excellency Vikram Doraiswami. Thank you so much, sir, for talking to us and joining us. I have to say, this particular location has actually become a symbol of pride for Indians. That flag, that's where they came and they attacked, and then you put that giant flag up there. It must have been a rather traumatic couple of days, or what happened?
Well, yes, we certainly have had better days, certainly seen less stressful days than that. This was on a Sunday. As it happened, we were coming into the office anyway, my colleagues and I got a frantic phone call saying, don't come in immediately, there's a crisis happening immediately. And I suppose our security guys were worried that, it shouldn't get worse with the attack upon the High Commissioner's car or on me personally. But what happened that day was that there was a group of about 25 or 30 people who came, and obviously it had been pre-planned. They had cameras and so on and so forth, and they scaled the balcony and were in the process of lowering the flag and trying to hand it over to their crew to desecrate it and to put up a Khalistani flag. And our security guys climbed into the balcony. And
he actually came out and grabbed it back, which is a brave guy. I'd love to meet him and shake his hand at some point.
Well, you can only shake one hand because they managed to break his other arm in 3 places.
Did they?
Yeah, with lathis, which they were using from here. So, when they said there were minor injuries, it was, in the larger scheme of things, but he did have 3 fractures on his arm. Okay. So then
and where did you get that from? I can't believe you actually had. Did you have an Indian flag that size just lying around and waiting for
We'd actually got one a couple of months ago, basically to enhance the fact that in such cases, we would emphasize the fact that the Indian flag is why we are here, and we have no desire to allow people to sort of push us into a position where we can't even fly the flag. What else is a diplomatic mission for if it doesn't fly the flag? So this flag we then put up that afternoon itself to essentially make the point where you can try and desecrate our flag, but the flag is bigger than all of us.
No, absolutely. And I'm sure you're going to continue to press them for more security, because I'm noticing this bus stop right here in front of the High Commission, and maybe more security is required. But just understanding the nature of the relationship right now. Obviously Britain is no longer the biggest partner that India has, but still an important partner because of that history, and partly I think also because of the diaspora here, something which I'm going to talk to you a little bit about. How do you see the overall relationship, other than irritants like security here?
The real substance of our work increasingly is all about our partnerships in an increasingly complex geopolitical world.
Right.
The UK and India, as large democracies, have a lot to contribute. The UK now has a position on the Indo-Pacific, which is, of course, of critical importance to us. It's the region that is most central to our geo-economic well-being. The UK is a major trade partner. Our trade is, as per their estimates alone, about 33 billion pounds, so about $35 billion. There is a strong services portion, there's a strong goods portion to the trade, and of course there's a trade agreement being negotiated.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a reverse empire happening, right? The empire striking back. Yes. You do have a prime minister of Indian origin, and of course a lot of British companies being taken over, so that's certainly happening. Look, when it comes to partnership, Britain and India, Britain's been a bit of a malign force in India, if you like, during the years of the Raj. But even immediately after that, not always being very sympathetic on areas like Kashmir and others. Overall, though, would you say they are partners, they are allies, they are friends, or somewhere in between?
No, I'd say that, look, there is great goodwill today in the UK for India. We see it in the government, the current ruling party, the Tories, but also in the main opposition party, the Labour Party. There is interest in a relationship that is mutually beneficial. And I think there is a recognition of the fact that a rising India as a democracy, as a country with strong sort of commitment to values, to the rule of law, the rise of India is in and of itself to the benefit of the UK. And anchoring a relationship, anchoring global Britain, as is their new strategy since Brexit, in a rising India is obviously going to be of value to them.
If you were to look, for example, just at what the British press is constantly saying about India, two strands very clearly seem to be coming across. I think there's a lot of recognition of the economic opportunities there are, the fact that India has overtaken the UK, the fact that India could well be growing at 6-7% for decades, becoming one of the largest economies in the world, infrastructure, rollout, digital. That's the plus side. On the negative side, you hear a lot in the British press about democratic backsliding and freedom of press and issues like that. Would that be a fair way of summarizing opinion out here?
Absolutely. Partly, I think it's, well, there are two problems in that, right? One is that, unlike previous generations of Britons, up to the 1950s, I'd say, who had detailed knowledge about India, in fact, of the entire subcontinent, that has gone. So today, there is basically superficial knowledge about India. And people in India find that hard to believe, but it is actually true. You know, this country, for the last several decades, has really had very little detailed attention to India. And so that leads them to look at sort of episodes and events as representative of the larger complexity of India. And that's a problem, of course. And so that's a problem, of course, for them, but it's also a problem for us.
To some extent, British have always been accused of dividing and conquering, and they introduced a lot of the division into Indian society. Some of those divisions now seem to be coming back, at least in my time out here when I'm looking at what's happening with the diaspora. Some of the issues seem to be divisions and issues from India now coming here. Khalistan, for example, bullying of kids, clashes taking place between different aspects of South Asian communities out here. Is that becoming a headache for you or not yet?
Well, some of it is, of course, because you mentioned, for instance, the so-called Khalistan thing. Frankly, people need to recognize that there is no such thing in India. The Sikh community is one of the most, it's a community that contributes to the largest extent in our civil society, in our armed forces, in our government. It is a disproportionately well represented community because of the values that they possess, because of the commitment to hard work, and because of their strong sense of nationalism. Yeah. So it's kind of ridiculous that people out here, a small minority, a really small minority of the British Sikh community, have sort of been stuck on the narrative since the 80s, in the bad days of the 80s, when bad stuff did happen, to sort of, continue to play this card, which has now become a more of a political
and as I will tell the viewers a little later, that does sometimes result in direct threats to those who are saying we don't agree with all of this.
Yes.
They threaten them and they
That's completely reprehensible. By the way, they were also trying to do that to my team and I, on their websites and stuff like that. Yeah. This is completely unacceptable. You cannot, even if you disagree, you cannot be actually individually targeting people. If you disagree with them. What sort of values are those?
Right. Okay, Mr. High Commissioner, before we let you go and get back to work, any final thoughts you have for us? Like, where do you see this relationship going forward? Is it going to become a major strategic partnership for us going forward? Will it not be? How do you see this? Where do you see the future?
Well, look, I think we are interested in a substantive, wide-ranging and deeper relationship with the UK. The intention is to try and ensure that our relationship steps forward in a variety of areas, including, in particular, trade and investment, but also technology, research, innovation, areas of mutual strength like that. And of course, our diaspora, 1.8 million people of Indian origin. This is a community that's successful, prosperous, entrepreneurial. This is a community that has actually earned a very good name here.
So last word for you then on where the future is actually headed to. Do you think it's more economic going forward, especially when the FTA comes? Would it be more strategic and defense related when it comes to the Indo-Pacific? will it be questions around the diaspora?
Well, it'll be a mix of all three, right? I mean, in a sense, no relationship can be built on just one pillar. The economic and commercial and investment pillar, of course, is a critical part because, frankly, nations stay partners as long as they're getting wealthy together.
Yeah.
The strategic part is an important piece of the glue because in a more complex world, countries with similar values will need to work more closely with each other. And of course, our defense and sort of technology-based partnerships will only grow as a result of that. But the community is the thing that could actually add real value to it. Today, particularly when people of Indian origin here, 1.8 million, as I said, are looking to find ways in which they can contribute more productively to a strengthened relationship that benefits both countries. I think that would be a really critical part of the piece.
All right. Vikram Doraiswami, High Commissioner to the UK, quite literally keeping the flag flying, in a rather large flag flying. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.
We're moving on now to the economic relations between India and Britain. I can tell you that many members of the Indian diaspora have played a very important role in that. Perhaps none more so than Lord Karan Bilimoria, the founder and the chairperson of Cobra Beer, one of the best known people out here. We got a chance to catch up with him and we asked him, how are the economic ties between India and Britain proceeding? This is what he said to us in this special interview. Well, one thing is very clear in the relationship between India and Britain. It's a role being played by the Indian diaspora out here, and many of them have risen to positions of great power and certainly become captains of British industry as well. Nobody symbolizes that better than Lord Karan Bilimoria, who's joining us, President and Chairman of Cobra Beer. You were the President as well of the British Chamber of Commerce. You're the Chancellor of the University of Birmingham. Lots and lots of titles, Lord Bilimoria. Such a pleasure to have you with us. Tell us, first of all, your overall sense of how Indo-British business relations are going now.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to talk about UK-India relations because I see my whole life as being Indo-British, in that I was born and brought up in India, in Hyderabad. I came to study in the UK as a 19-year-old. And from that time, I've always felt equally at home in both countries. And one of my objectives, right from the very beginning, even when I set up my business, Cobra Beer, was to put the UK and India together. Yeah. And beyond my business, as my business grew and I got involved in public life, 20 years ago, I was appointed as the UK chairman of the Indo-British Partnership by the UK government to promote UK-India trade, business and investment both ways. And my counterpart was Narayan Murthy, the founder of Infosys. And then later on, I founded the UK-India Business Council, and then later on became president of the Confederation of British Industry, the equivalent of the CII in India, for 2 years until June 2022. The relationship between our countries has always been what I call a special relationship. In the UK, we have a special relationship with the United States of America. That's a fact. The United States is the biggest trading partner of the UK as a single country, almost 25% of our trade, and that's a fact. The European Union as a bloc is our biggest trading partner with, to this day, 45% of our trade. But India is a country with a 400-year relationship with the UK, that's always been very special. And yet, India is only the 12th largest trading partner of the United Kingdom. So we could be and we should be doing much, much more in trade, business, investment of what is today, India, the fastest growing major economy in the world, and soon to be one of the 3 superpowers in the world.
And I think looking ahead, you summed it up really well, but if you look ahead, India has just overtaken Britain as one of the largest economies in the world. It's overtaken Britain there. But at the rate at which India is growing and compounding, it's going to be twice as large in a few years, could be 5 times as larger than all the other members of the Commonwealth at a certain period. So is there that sense in Britain as well that this could become, and this should become, one of our defining relations and defining partnerships?
Without any doubt. If we look at it today, India overtook the UK to become the 5th largest economy in the world. We're the 6th largest economy in the world here in the UK. It is forecast within 25 years, India will have a GDP of $32 trillion and will be the 3rd largest economy in the world and will be one of the world's 3 superpowers along with the United States and China. That, I think, is going to happen, and I think it will happen probably quicker than 25 years. The UK sees India as a very, very close partner, to the extent that we have published in 2021 what we've called an integrated review. And an integrated review is our review of our defense and our security and our development altogether globally. And in it, we specifically refer to a tilt to the Indo-Pacific. We no longer refer to the Asia-Pacific. We actually specifically say Indo-Pacific. That's how important India is. So what we need to do now, we've got a free trade agreement that is being negotiated as we speak, that has gone through 8 different stages so far, that is making good progress. Even before the free trade agreement, 2 things that I've been fighting for since I became the UK chair of the Indo-British Partnership and then founded the UK-India Business Council in 2007, is foreign lawyers to be able to practice in India. That's been announced even before the free trade agreement has been agreed. I've been asking for a long time for foreign universities to be open campuses in India. And in the past government, Palam Raju, the education minister at the time in 2014, announced that it was going to happen. It didn't happen. There was a change of government. We've persisted in saying, please allow foreign universities to open up. In India, I was Chancellor of what is now the University of West London for 5 years. I was the youngest university chancellor in the country here in the UK. From that time, going back to 2005, I've been asking for it. It's now been announced with the new education policy. Foreign universities can now open up in India. The University of Birmingham...
But are they doing it? Are they going to be doing it?
Already, an Australian university has announced they're going to open up in Gift City. Their British universities are interested. Birmingham University is a top 100 university in the QS rankings in the world.
When you come to the FTA, though, we've been hearing talk about the FTA for a long, long time. Is it coming, and is it coming anytime soon?
Absolutely. Since leaving the European Union, Britain has had the ability to negotiate our own free trade deal. Otherwise, it all had to be via the European Union. So the first thing we did, we rolled over 66 free trade agreements that the EU had with other countries, such as Canada, and we rolled those over, so we now have those as bilateral trade agreements. Then we started negotiating new ones. First was Australia, which I played a major role in when I was president of the CBI, and then after that, New Zealand, similarly, very comprehensive deals. The third one is India, and this is going to be a major deal for the United Kingdom. This is going to have the impact of making it much easier to do business between our 2 countries, much easier to invest between our countries, and I would hope easier to travel between our countries as well, including youth mobility.
But do you still expect that FTA to come? I'm sorry to press you on that, because people have been trying to figure out, when is it going to happen? It's been announced forever, it's been negotiated forever, then there'll be questions about immigration, there'll be questions about can Indians, will you open up to services and all of that. Do you think it will happen in our lifetime? If I
look back to the Australian deal, which was done, a very comprehensive deal very quickly, it took 1 year to negotiate it. Yeah. And then when we thought it was all done, it took another 6 months for other issues that came up, for finally going from completing the negotiations to actually signing the agreement. So it took 1.5 years. Yeah. Now the Indian deal, the negotiations started January 2022. We're now coming up to that 1.5 year period when, if it's the same as the Australian, we'll be signing that deal this summer. It's to do with all our business relationship, and it's to do with innovation, it's to do with small and medium-sized companies, it's to do with data, it's to do with IP. Yeah. Lots of different areas have to be covered in a free trade deal, and including the movement of people.
Right. Last question. The sort of a role that you have played in bridging the 2 countries, and certainly the role that you have played in the British economy. How do you see Indians' position in the diaspora? Because that's obviously a major asset that India feels it's got in this country, 1.8 million people of Indian origin. Do you feel that the diaspora is playing an increasingly important role in the British economy?
There's no question about it. The Indian diaspora here, the figure used to be 1.5 million. You've said 1.8 million. The figure I have is 1.7 million. Whatever it is.
It's somewhere there.
That we are the largest minority community in the UK, and we are, I would say, very proudly the most successful minority community in the UK. We contribute many times our percentage of the population to the economy of the country, to the culture of the country, in every field. And the best example is Indians are reaching the very top.
Right. Lord Bilimoria, such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much, and let's hope those ties continue to expand at an exponential pace. I'm sure it'll happen.
I think we're just scratching the surface when it comes to UK-India trade, business, investment. It is going to rocket in the future.
Well, Lord Karan Bilimoria has, of course, been driving those strikes for a long period of time. Somebody who's been playing a far greater role in the very recent past is Manoj Ladwa, who's put up the India Global Forum and is trying to get Indian investment interest in Britain and vice versa. He told us about some of the plans and what role the diaspora can actually play in all this. So if India is gathering importance for the UK because of its size, because of the growth out there, where does Britain figure in the Indian scheme of things, and what exactly is the role that the diaspora, the very powerful diaspora, going to play in that? Well, to answer some of these questions, all with a pleasure talking to Manoj Ladwa, who's the person who set up the India Global Forum, been really driving all economic relations. Manoj, aren't you, here in Britain? You're a sort of unofficial ambassador for the Indian business community here in Britain.
You're flattering me too much, Vikram. I play my role just like many other people within the diaspora to help strengthen the relationship between our two great nations, our two great democracies.
Well, you achieved one thing, right? You've got a person of Indian origin as the Prime Minister of Britain. Well done, Manoj.
Well, we have to pinch ourselves
Yes.
that we do have somebody of Indian origin, somebody of my generation that has become the Prime Minister of this country. And I just have to look back when I was growing up. It wasn't trendy to be Indian in this country. We grew up at a time when there was a lot of racism on the streets, and you were almost frowned upon when you said that you were Indian or of Indian origin. And in a matter of just 2 or 3 decades, we now have Rishi Sunak as the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
All right, Manoj, let's just think about where Britain then should stand when it comes to India, because obviously people will be interested in India, a country which is going that fast with the size that is happening. How should India be looking at Britain?
Look, there's a lot of talk in India that this country is a declining power, there is a declining economy and so on. But there are some fundamentals about this country which make it extremely, extremely attractive, especially for India. One is, of course, its diaspora. We have a 1.5 million strong diaspora. We've just talked about the fact that the country has an Indian origin Prime Minister. But beyond that, India is now one of the largest investors into the UK, and one of the largest employers in the manufacturing sector, has the largest number of students studying in UK universities. So there's a huge amount of...
I thought India's not trying to reverse that by saying get your universities into India so we don't have to waste foreign exchange sending them here. Tell them all to come and set up in India somewhere.
Well, that's an opportunity in itself as well.
That's true.
I think no longer it's the physical location, but it's the fact that people can move more freely between the two countries and set up businesses and so on. That's important.
A lot is being said about the fact that the economic growth and the infrastructure and the digital rollout and the technology that is coming in India. But then there's a second side also. There's all this talk about democracy and what's happening. So how do you see India being perceived here increasingly?
Look, if we read the media in this country or anywhere else and we just take that as gospel, then we would have a very warped view of where things lie. But you just have to look at the fact that the relationship between the UK and India has been probably more busier now than it has been at any other time. Just the other week, you had the Indian Science Minister, Mr. Jitendra Singh, signing a science and technology agreement between the two countries. We're on the verge of a free trade agreement as well, which is being negotiated in all vigor and earnest, as you would expect. But there is a lot of communication between the two countries, and a recognition that India is a country on the rise. India is a country on the move. It is the largest, most populous country in the world, but it's the fastest growing large economy in the world.
Well, you're the person who's putting all of this together, Manoj, and working on all these relationships. So thank you so much for talking to us, and we'll continue to stay in touch on how this entire path is going to continue to go forward. Yeah, but it's beautiful out here, isn't it?
It is. It's absolutely stunning.
Nice weather. Thank you so
Thank you very
much
much.
for joining
Thank
us.
you.
But moving now to some of the issues around the diaspora. Charlotte Littlewood very recently wrote a report for the Henry Jackson Society about anti-Hindu hate being faced by children in schools here in Britain. That report created quite a stir. And she joined us to tell us what her findings were and what can be done to solve this problem. Well, one of the things that has got a lot of attention, especially among the diaspora, was a report written by Charlotte Littlewood, fellow at the Henry Jackson Society, basically talking about the bullying of kids, Hindu kids, in some schools out here. And she's now joining us. Charlotte, thank you so much for being with us. This report that you wrote has actually got a lot of attention. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Have there been a large number of cases of bullying of kids or small children just because they happen to be Hindu?
Yeah, absolutely. That is what the report found, that when we surveyed nearly 1,000 Hindu parents, that over 50% say their child has said to them that they've suffered some form of anti-Hindu hate in schools. And that's considering that some children obviously won't tell their parents about what they experience at school. So we think that's probably a conservative estimate.
Any sort of an indication of who's behind it? What are they saying? Where is it coming from?
I think this is what's really concerning about anti-Hindu hate in particular, is it's very multifaceted. So we have a history in the UK of centering Abrahamic faiths. You know, we're a Christian country culturally, and what's happened is the way in which Hinduism and actually Sikhism and Buddhism are taught as well in schools are from this Abrahamic, in a sense, supremacist sort of way. Not consciously, but teachers are teaching from a God-centric perspective, from a scripture-centric perspective, and what that's leading to is an alienation of Hindu kids and Hinduism, a focus on multiple gods, which is leading to issues around teasing around polytheism, and they're even bringing things in like the caste system at primary school age, where when we teach about religion at primary school age, it is all about positivity and cohesion, and to bring something that is controversial and not well understood, and it's got socio-political issues around it and historic issues around it, is something far too complex and far too negative to bring into the classroom. So that's one section of why we're seeing Hindus facing what they're facing in school. And then we have xenophobic racism against skin colour, against coming from a different country generally. And then we're seeing an issue coming from the Muslim communities. So we are seeing some groups of Muslim parents, perhaps madrasas, teaching an anti-Hindu stance. And that is coming into the school in cases of children saying the bullying will stop if you convert, and taunting them with the fact that they think they will be burning in the hellfire if they don't come to Islam.
So some of it would be coming from white kids or from Caucasian backgrounds, and that would be the first category. The second category, but some would be coming from other people, potentially other children who are children of immigrants, who would then be targeting them. So it's becoming a bit more cloudy now as to where the hate is coming from. It's not old-style racism.
When you look at the numbers, we did have double the amount of cases that were coming from Muslim peers over non-Muslim white peers, but there was significant coming from the white peers as well in school. So we're seeing that it's coming from a broad spectrum of backgrounds. But what's really shocking is that schools aren't handling this. Although 51% of parents said there was an issue, less than 1% of schools recorded anything at all. And we saw something similar when we looked at anti-Semitism. We saw sporadic, unclear reporting. And that comes down to the fact that schools don't have any onus to properly record the instances of bullying and to report that to anyone. So that's something we've called for. It's been called for in 2012 and 2017, and then again in our report, that we need to understand what is happening in the schools so we can tackle hate so it doesn't manifest into something like we saw in Leicester last year.
So I have to ask, when it comes to dealing with some of these situations, is there also a problem that comes around with political correctness? And it's not just with the hate directed at Hindu kids, even when it comes to white kids. For example, the Rotterdam sex scandal, which I think shocked a lot of people, those are grooming gangs, Pakistani grooming gangs, targeting little white girls, right? And there was really organized sexual abuse of little white girls. And that was allowed to continue for a long period of time because there was political correctness. Are you feeling that that's part of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And when it comes to counter-terrorism in particular, we have seen active attempts to stop terrorist attacks. They were not able to be stopped because of political correctness. We saw with the Manchester inquiry, which was the Ariana Grande concert, you expect to have young teens, their parents there, coming to the concert, and then an older man with a backpack is in the hallway praying, and the security guard is concerned. He doesn't report it, and he goes out for an extended lunch break because he was concerned about looking Islamophobic. So there really is an extent to where we now are, where we are not able to do proper counter-terrorism work, counter-extremism work, because there is a fear of looking racist. Because there is this communication, especially by extremists, that they represent the whole of Islam, which is not true. But that has been so well communicated by them that people are fearful to counter extremism because of the extremists themselves saying that they represent Islam. And when it came to the grooming gangs, we know that the police investigation was actually limited because it didn't call out the fact that they were all coming from the same group. And that is really worrying, and we need to definitely be bold in the way we counter extremism and terrorism. And if there are groups in which this is managing to manifest, that doesn't mean it's manifesting across the whole group. But we have to look at that. We have to look at where are the ideas coming from, how is this getting to the UK, and how can we tackle it, and we need to be upfront and honest.
What would be your suggestions and how do you handle the hate that the Hindu kids are facing? I'm sure they and the parents that you were speaking to would have indicated that this could have been a solution which perhaps hasn't yet been put into place.
So I think first of all it's all about awareness. We know we have a problem with anti-Hindu hate here in the UK. We need to understand what that is, how it's manifesting, and be serious about tackling it. And that means PREVENT, which is our soft end of the counter-terrorism strategy. It's what I was working in with the government. They need to understand that this hate is real, it's manifesting, and it got violent in Leicester. So that training needs to go to all PREVENT providers, that then goes out to the communities. The schools need to understand the different types of hates that are manifesting in their classroom. The schools are in a unique position to reach young people from all different cultures, communities, religions, faiths. And we need to build a cohesive and integrated Britain. And we need to do that through education, and also through policing, and also through our counter-terrorism strategy. So it's really about awareness, and it's about confidence.
Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much. Well, those allegations of discrimination and targeting and hate are nothing new. They sometimes do manifest themselves in college also. And sometimes domestic politics can also play a role in it. Take, for example, the case of Karan Kataria, who was standing for president at the LSE. Then there was an online campaign against him, and he was eventually disqualified. And there were various reasons for that and a lot of controversies for that. Certainly, his affiliations to the RSS seem to have played an important role in that as well. We met Karan, we spoke to him, we asked him what had happened in his case, and we asked him what he's doing about it. Allegations of the bullying are not only with school children, shocking enough though there is. It can also happen with college kids. And so there's, for example, Karan Kataria out here, who's been a very high-profile case in recent times, so much so that 150 academics have now been writing. The case has made it to all the press. The High Commission here in Britain has actually got involved. Karan, tell us a little bit about what happened. So you're a Master of Law at the London School of Economics, and you were standing for election. And right when when voting was taking place, a bunch of messages were sent out, from what I understand, and they accused you of all sorts of things, right? From homophobia to Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, I don't know what all there was.
Yeah. Vikramji, there lies a vested interest that is driven by pernicious, destructive and motivated agenda. Agenda that is to undermine the Bharat culture, Bharat history, Bharat ethos, Bharat society, the cultural and civilizational values that we hold. So all this is done by theory of cancelling the credibility of an individual. So on 24th, the same theory was applied. A smear campaign was launched against me, to terming me as Islamophobic, homophobic, Europhobic, a Hindu nationalist, and all range of these accusations against me tried to cancel me out rather than fighting me on the basis of my personal caliber.
They disqualified you then, right? So the present status is that they disqualified you, the other candidate won, And now what's the situation right now? It's under appeal?
They said that I was within 2 meters of someone voting. So I asked them, can you please provide me with the CCTV? On what basis are you making this conclusion?
Because that's an important point, because essentially what they are saying is they're not holding your views and saying that that's the reason why you were disqualified. They're saying very clearly it was because you were coercing voters. You were voting on behalf of people, taking their phones, typing in, voting on their behalf. So those allegations of coercion is what they have officially quoted against you.
Vikramji, again, there need to be substance, proof to corroborate certain things. So if they are saying certain things, they need to show me those evidences. They need to show me and prove and corroborate that yes, this has been done. This is the basic tenet of principles of natural justice and rule of law. Or the alternate part, you need to hear the other side. So without showing me the evidences, without telling me what the complaint is, who the complainants are, without telling me the entire situation and giving me the evidences and proof on which they are coming to that conclusion, without hearing my side, they come to a conclusion. The student union comes to a conclusion that I coerced voters. Now they have changed that coercion to just, saying that I was within 2 meters of an individual casting my vote.
So you're categorically saying that there was no question of coercion. You didn't coerce anybody.
Not even an iota of evidence which proves that I have done anything within my knowledge which was contrary, which was not as per the election rules.
All right. Now looking ahead, where do you see this entire situation headed? Because your case has obviously become something that has really become a major talking point, right? You hear some people here in Britain saying this is an example of domestic issues in India coming here, like they said at the time of Leicester also, like they said in Birmingham, like when other stuff is happening. There is an Indian domestic politics that is transferring itself here to Britain. But clearly the High Commission is taking a stance out here. You said that a bunch of academics have written, 150 academics have written. Where do you see your case going from here?
Again, what I demand, Vikramji, that this is not the first instance that we are witnessing it. There have been all set of rest state and so many frequent events that have happened in the history of this fighting and destroying and distorting the image of a country. And doing so, these institutions, these elitist set of individuals with a vested interest, what I initially said, goes on to a certain extent that they try, if you're not inclined towards their thought, their ideology, then you're cancelled altogether.
So I guess that is a trend that we're going to continue to see. It's almost strange, right? The British brought divide and rule to India. Now some of the divisions and some of the issues that they had sparked off there are now coming back to these shores and are playing a role in the lives of the diaspora and the lives of Indian students and others, for example, who are coming out here. But also there is a responsibility that has to be placed squarely on British shoulders, and that is giving security, especially to people who are being targeted, for example, by Khalistani extremists. I want to end this program with a very special interview. Harman Singh and his wife, Khushi Kaur Kapoor, have been talking against the Khalistanis. They've been talking against the hate that has been propagated by some of them, and they have been targeted. They were driven from their homes. They faced death threats. They faced rape threats. I went across to their restaurant in Ealing. I got a chance to meet them and sat down to try and understand what they're going through. This is their story, in their words.
आजा बाहर आजा खालिस्तानी आगे आजा बाहर आजा बाहर आजा बाहर आना मत हमला हो गया कॉल पुलिस प्लीज कॉल पुलिस
Well, bullying and intimidation can, of course, take different types. Somebody who's really been facing it far more directly, Harman Singh, who's here with us, and his wife, Khushi. These are parts where the Indian community is, and the Sikh community are, and others are. He's been speaking out very vociferously against Khalistan, as is she. And they've had to pay some price. They've had multiple attacks. How many attacks have you had?
Total 4 attacks.
And they've come and they've tried to attack this particular restaurant where I'm sitting.
Yeah.
What happened? Just tell us a little bit about what's been happening with you.
I posted first video as my daughter asked me questions after seeing a lot of things happening online about Khalistan, and their Khalistanis are doing a lot of referendum and burning Indian flags and attacking Indian embassies, high commissions all over the world. So she asked me a question, Ted, what's happening? So I told her this Khalistan movement was there in India way back, 40 years back. It was died down, but right now they wake up again from other countries, all these people who want Khalistan, like in Canada, England, Australia, they wanted a separate city or separate land in India called Khalistan. And my question to them is, if you want Khalistan, you go back and fight your war there. Why are you fighting here? You will fight here. You will raise your voice here. Then,
because there's not much resonance in India. There's no resonance in Punjab. Amritpal Singh was arrested, taken away, hardly been any protest. So that it seems to be more resonance here.
Yeah.
So you came out and you spoke about that.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
I spoke about that. If you want, go back and ask for your rights, you think is right. Ask there. Because you're speaking aloud, and innocent Sikhs will be killed back in India. Because you're here, nobody can touch you. But if sentiments go wrong, they will be killed, like what happened in 1984. That was a true fact. And they got agitated with this. That video went viral for 2 million views in 2 days. And I started getting calls, take the video down, otherwise they'll kill you. They start trolling me, my family, putting my wife's photo, my daughter's photo online, body shaming, rape threats, and calling me every day, take out the video, otherwise we will kill you. I took it lightly initially. But after some days, some 5 guys came in my restaurant and they attacked my restaurant with Khalistan Zindabad slogan and asked my guests to throwing my guests out from the restaurants and asked me to apologize online. They bring the camera, apologize, otherwise we'll kill you, we know your home. You are coming to house tomorrow also. Things like that. They're 5 guys, tall, Sikhs and some Punjabis, Hindus. I don't know who are they. They're Punjabis or what. They try to intimidate me badly, threatened me with my life. And my wife was there, my daughter was inside. I tried to cool them down. I asked them, this is why I don't want Khalistan, because this is not Khalsa Raj you're wanting. You're wanting Gunda Raj. I raised my voice, I don't want it, and you want to kill me. This is not Khalsa Raj. This is not. You don't know the meaning.
So, there have been threats made against you, death threats, rape threats, all sorts of things. You're not intimidated. You're not scared. You're not telling him to and yourself to be a little bit more silent.
No, I'm not scared. I cry actually. Main thing. I'm scared for my kids, but I cry because there are sick people. They lick my pictures on social media, my daughter pictures. They put my house address and they say, go and rape them.
They've done that?
Yeah. They've done that. They put live my house address in Twitter, in TikTok. Go and rape them. We will pay you.
Just to understand, because this is a law and order matter. This is a threat. This is intimidation. They've come and physically attacked it here. How come I'm not seeing any police protection outside? I'm sort of walked in here. There's no guy. Have you complained to the police? Has anybody come to help you?
Police never came on time, never. And their only excuse is we got other serious matter to deal with. Your matter is not serious because I'm not dead yet. They are dealing with the matters when people is physically harmed or dead. So I have to be dead, then they will take action against those guys.
Trolling is one thing, but making death threats and rape threats with pictures there, that's not freedom of speech. That's incitement to violence. Even under British law, I'm sure that's illegal.
For UK police, this is freedom of speech. If I say so...
Death threats and rape threats are freedom of speech?
They are freedom of speech, yeah. Because still people are roaming around freely. Those who threatened me, rape threats, wanted to kill me. I gave their addresses to police. This is their address. Here they work. I gave everything to police. Long time back. Still no one is arrested. Still they are alive. They're taking my photos every day and posting, Harman was today here. We're keeping eye on Harman and we can kill him any day. They are doing freely in this country. While I have to run from my home after third attack. I was underground 10 days because I got no police protection. Even police told me, don't stay at your home, run. So this is police what they do.
Have you reached out to the Indian High Commission, spoken to them, asked for,
Indian High Commission cannot intervene in the law structure of UK because this is England, not India.
And you're not an Indian citizen?
I'm not. I'm British citizen.
what's happening in Britain is it's a multi-ethnic country, right? There are multiple, right? Even among the South Asians, the Muslim South Asians, Sikh South Asians, Hindu South Asians. Among the Sikh community in England, because I can tell you that in India, it's a vanishingly small percentage of people among the Sikhs who would say, oh, let's have Khalistan out here. Here, what do you think it is? Do you think there are a large number of Sikhs here who are like you, who do not think it's a good idea, but they're silent? And if they're silent, why are they silent?
They are scared. There are a lot of Sikhs, they don't want Khalistan here.
People who are coming out here and attacking you and intimidating you were not driven by any religious beliefs, anything else. You were saying they were more like gundas. They are like, you know.
They are gundas because the people who came, I dig myself them up. Because police don't doing the work, I'm digging them up. I find out that those people who attacked me, they are all a gang in UK. I can say the name of something called Injection Shere Punjab gang. They're the guys from that gang. And that gang is supported by Gurdwara. I got other proofs also which shows that group of that gang members are asking people, please go to protest to High Commission and Gurdwara will pay you.
Well, I tell you, it's a disturbing story. Let's certainly hope that, you know, some sort of protection is given, and let's hope, you know, it must be very difficult to be living in this sort of a situation. So thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's all we have for you in this episode of The India Story, coming to you from London. We'll be back in Delhi next week, but we'll continue to get you the latest developments in India, around India, and the India story as it plays out across the globe. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.
WION.
Gravitas tells you stories which others won't. And tonight we will tell you about this new strategic map that is being drawn.
They say your enemy's enemy is your friend. Is that the foundation of the new defense bridge between India and America?
This is what separates us from others who claim to be telling you global